All right. Thank you everyone for joining in. And thank you for all of those who actually joined early. We will start the meeting. And today, so we're very pleased uh, to release the policy briefs, institutionalizing student well-being in schools through a holistic framework and restorative practices. And drawing on from years of programmatic experiences, research, and engagement with students, educators, and schools, the brief highlights why these issues cannot remain peripheral to school systems. So, to write the policy briefs, I would also like to acknowledge our partners, TMI, the Metropolitan Institute. Karthik and Shrikar have been a huge support to in co-writing the briefs with us. The Metropolitan Institute is a think and do tank that envisions a world of aspirational and resilient ecosystem. And TMI brings demonstrated experiences across the government market and society, which they call Sarkar, Bazaar, and Samaj in the global south. And TMI also focuses on enabling policy reforms, driving development programs, and strategizing philanthropy, building capacity, and co-creating innovative and evidence-based solutions for social impact stakeholders. Before we move on to the speakers, I would like to just give some housekeeping, some guidelines. So please, if you want to say something, please put your questions or your comments in the chat box. We will take the questions at the end during the audience question round. So please keep yourself mute while the speakers are speaking. And we would be recording this program, this release. So in case if you're not comfortable being part of the recording, please do reach out to us and let us know your concerns. And also we have put the policies on our website. So do check out the link that is put on the chat box by my colleague Kushi. Yes. So yes. Dr. Rashmi Mahesh, yes, Soni is here. Yes, Soni, thank you so much for joining again. So good to see you. Um, uh, this policy briefs are written with the support of UNICEF. It could not have been possible without their support. And a special acknowledgement to Soni Kuti George. He is the child protection specialist with UNICEF with over 2 decades of experience advancing child rights and protection in India. And he has played a key role in strengthening child protection systems, contributing to national policies and programs on juvenile justice, alternative care, and protection from abuse and exploitation while working closely with government institutions and civil society partners. Welcome, Soni.
Sure. Thank you, Sanjana. Okay, I think thank you, Sanjana, and a special congratulations to Dr. Sangeeta, the Enfold team, TMI, and others whose worked and made this a reality. And primarily, schools as safe and supportive environment or spaces is something that everyone aspires, and UNICEF has been working towards student well-being and mental health, and this is possible only through a safe and supportive environment. And that is precisely what the policy talks about. And I think the most important dimension, what UNICEF would really love to have brought into this is the restorative work which Enfold is done, and that bit of information, that bit of lived experiences of Enfold adding value to this process is been something which is very important. And for UNICEF, schools as protective spaces is something which is the foundational thing. And actually, one of the key areas as safe learning environment is what UNICEF talks about. It's learning cannot happen, or any development that you make in learning or health or anything, if it is any child is faced with abuse, exploitation, neglect, all those gains get lost, right from nutrition gains, right from early childhood through to adolescence and to early adulthood. These things become so critical, and that if therefore having safe spaces as schools as safe spaces is something which is very important. And the most important dimension along with this is the mental health dimension, which everyone working around and sitting around the table right now is well versed, and I'm not wanting to do anything. And one of the things that UNICEF has been consistently promoting is the foundational education for well being and curriculum being tuned and the teachers becoming the emotional checkpoint for students as an ongoing process. And this requires the empowerment of teachers, the empowerment of the education system. It is very important that we have a whole school approach together with the teachers, students, and communities, that we are able to create the safe space within the schools, and also the practices that happens, the discipline, the whole focus on discipline in India is replaced with a restorative process where the damage done can be understood by the students and how they can actually collectively work together. A big congratulations to Enfold, Dr. Sangeeta and team, TMI, and others who worked in on this program. UNICEF is extremely happy and proud that we are able to bring in these concepts of peace building, these processes of beginning certain processes in childhood itself that will take all our children and our country to a greater height. All the very best and thank you. And UNICEF is extremely happy with this partnership and what we have done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Soni. I think it would not have been possible without your support. And I think UNICEF believing in our restorative approach is a big support for us. So it's always like, somebody is standing behind your back and be like, okay, this might be new to India, but we have, credibility from you all to do this, to take this forward. And rightly said that learning cannot happen without creating safe spaces for children. And a collective effort of everybody is required, not just of the government or of one stakeholder, but all the stakeholders need to come together to push this forward. Thank you so much, Soni. And again, I know you had a personal emergency. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much. Moving on, we have Rashmi Mahesh, ma'am, who is the Additional Chief Secretary to School Education and Literacy of Government of Karnataka. Um, Rashmi Mahesh, ma'am, is a senior Indian Administrative Service Officer of the 1996 batch in the Karnataka cadre of the Government of India. Her career spans senior leadership roles across multiple Karnataka government departments. She has served as a principal and additional secretary in areas including revenue, education, enterprise and health, and urban and rural development, reflecting wide administrative experience across governance and public service sectors. Beyond the bio that we could find online, I think it is very important to mention the key role that Rashmi Mahesh ma'am has played in getting the value education and not restricting the value education to the values that we have learned as children as obedience, respect to elders, but incorporating gender, sexuality, personal safety into the value education. So thank you so much, ma'am, for joining in and for seeing the value in adding all of these components into the value education curriculum. We would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure to be a part of the entire conversation that is happening here today. Special thanks are due to Dr. Sangeeta, Dr. Pushpa, and the entire Enfold team, which has worked consistently with our department over the last few months. And I must say that this sort of sincere service without any quid pro quo is something that all of us dream of. And I must say that whether it is for the 8 o'clock meetings in the morning or the endless sessions in DSCRT, because the DSCRT Karnataka team is also pretty robust. And we have, staff and experts who have been there for several decades. For the entire Enfold team to gel in so seamlessly and to make the entire task so easy. It is very rare that we get extremely enlightened political leadership that actually asks us to move on a path that very few states have tread on. So when we got this option to actually work on the entire value education module, and as in when we discussed, we realized that there was that much more that could be done. And we also started, pushing the boundaries. So whether it is the entire comprehensive sexuality education module that we were able to fit in through from class 8 onwards, or the entire interventions with regard to addressing the various stigmas that surround pubertal growth, especially in our schools, or the overt and covert gender-based violence that happens despite the RTE framework under the guise of corporal punishment, which is often not acknowledged at all. So the child is shamed as being an underachiever in academics, and that guilt that the child carries. So many of our teachers who actually were, asked to review the value education module, or acknowledged, albeit very, very sadly, that at one point or the other they have been guilty of these activities. So we have, over the past few months, as has been enunciated in the policy brief for Karnataka, which I must mention is quite comprehensive. And I must also mention, while it is comprehensive, the delineation of activities are so nuanced and so specific at the same time. It moves us towards tangible goals. So Karnataka, to give a very brief, outlook, we have something like 43,500 schools. We also have a huge private sector presence in the schools. We have the university system, which is basically class 11 and 12. And together we have about 1 crore students and counting, who are actually a part of the school education system. Over the past few years, we have seen a steady decline in enrollment in the government school setup, as is happening in the rest of the country. But we are also grappling with other issues that have come up in the meantime. We are looking at, in the government sector, an essentially disjoined schooling system, which we are trying to sort of now lay into a continuous schooling segment, which again, quite inadvertently has resulted in increased number of dropouts over the past decade and a half. One is the actual movement of students to the private schools. The private schools may not, or usually do not, come under the kind of scrutiny that the public school system has, and the decline in enrollment and the dropouts that is happening. And then there is the marked gender element there. So these are some of the observations that we have been seeing. And even when we look at the kind of interventions that we have been able to work out with Enfold, as far as the entire value education system is concerned, one or two areas that we realized work could be happening continuously, but also needs to kind of reach a set end, is the entire textbook curriculum that we have and the gender sensitivity that is there as a part of the curriculum. So again, when we had teachers go through the entire textbooks from class 1 to class 12, there was always that element when peer groups reviewed it across various networks. There was always that bit of element which was again pointed out despite work happening. So some work that we have done over the past few years is aligning our entire curriculum on a gender sensitivity platform. We have also worked extensively to address, again, there are some issues which come at the intersection of various departments. So when we look at the safety of the girl child in school particularly, some of the major problems that are there in the state are, again, dropouts of school, or girls from school, and also the propensity of child marriage in various forms. There is also gender violence that happens. And then there are also issues of actually the girls not attending schools regularly. So the intersectional departments that are there, be it women and child, be it law, be it health and family welfare, the intersectional exchanges that can happen between the various departments is also something that has been addressed in the policy brief of Enfold, and which we will take to its logical conclusion. We are also happy to have the Honorable High Court of Karnataka, which is overseeing various interventions, especially with regard to the safety of the girl child. Another area that we are looking forward to is the entire capacity building of our teachers. So the value education modules have been developed. The textbooks are ready to print now. We had also sort of published it for stakeholder comments. We have received a lot of comments from across various, groups, interest groups. So at the cusp of, the textbooks going in for print, we are also working out a comprehensive training program to train all our teachers just before the academic year commences. So this training is going to encompass value education as well as gender sensitivity and the comprehensive sexuality education that is a part of our value education textbooks. So this training program will cover something like 1.5 lakh teachers from class 1 to class 10. We are also looking at convergence of life skills as a part of the value education and the other modules that have been developed, especially for our university colleges, because life skills is again something that we are focusing on, again aligned with vocational education content that has been strengthened in our flagship schools, which would be about 2,500 schools in the coming academic year. Digital safety is again another area that we are focusing on, especially given the proliferation of digital content, the easy accessibility to the content, and also the fact that now it is easier to get content on a mobile phone than lay your hands on a book. So given this context, the availability of non-modulated content, which is actually very accessible to both boys and girls, is an area of concern, and value education textbooks to a large extent try and address that. We are also looking at developing in every school one teacher as the mental health and the social well-being counselor. So when typically in Karnataka, we have the counseling system for placing our teachers in schools. So we have delineated, we are bringing in amendments to delineate this post of having a mental health and physical well-being counselor who is also a teacher born out of that school as a critical post. What it essentially means is that this post will be filled in on priority before the other posts that are vacant. So this capacity building is again something that we are looking at to complete before the next academic year. Mental well-being and mental health is again very high on the agenda of the government. It sort of gels in well with all the other inputs that we have worked on till now, be it value education, be it the entire puberty, etc., the kind of adolescent behavior that happens in our schools and colleges, and the comprehensive sexuality education and the life skills module that we are working on. So the entire context of mental health sort of sits firmly into this set of interventions. I must also mention that we are strengthening the entire framework of summative and formative assessments. We've gotten a module of concurrent evaluation through the lesson-based assessment, which is quite democratic. We have democratized the entire examination system, so addressing one of the biggest fears that is there, and one of the biggest interventions that happens when a child needs to be bullied or subdued in school. We have brought in something which is called the blueprint, so which is essentially the outline on which the entire examination has to be conducted. Thus, we have laid out a level playing field, which should not make examinations a barrier for any child. These are some of the interventions that we are working on in Karnataka. We hope that these, along with the single school school cycle, life cycle module that we are working on through the Karnataka public schools will result in a holistic environment. I must also mention that in the coming academic year, we are looking to onboard the private schools for training in our diets. So hitherto, DSCRT had insulated itself from the private schools. The private schools, many of them, or which are of the lower economic category or which are not very well established, which have a great intent to see that there is capacity building of teachers, especially in contemporary fields, are going to be accommodated on the highest priority. So it is our endeavor to see that comprehensively all our teachers are going to be trained on these modules in the next academic year. And we wish to go on forth on this. It is a rapidly evolving area, I must say. And we are happy that there is oversight of the Supreme Court and the High Court also on various interventions that the state needs to do. Many a time we are prodded to move in that direction by the press also. Some of these news translate as sensational headlines, and we often forget that at the end of the headline there is a child there. But many a times this also prods in very quick action from the state and interventions. So this is a collective exercise. We require knowledge partners, we require activists in the field who can actually guide us, modulate our interventions, and the entire partnership that we have had with Enfold has sort of, reignited this kind of partnerships that happen and have been happening in Karnataka. I look forward to listening what transpires today in the entire dialogue. I wish the very best to everyone who is a part of this entire program. And we will reach out to you and we'll see to it that the policy is translated into tangible action. Thanks a lot. The very best to all of you.
Thank you so much, Rashmi ma'am. I think thank you for sharing the details also of everything that your department is doing, and also the fact that the value education curriculum is itself so groundbreaking, because this is Karnataka is one of the very few states who has done it, and we have been getting actually calls from other state departments, from government officials saying, "Can you please send us the value education? What you did in Karnataka? Can we do something similar?" So I think it is creating a stepping stone and an inspiration for other states to do that. So I think that's and this would not have been possible without your support. I think we just went into the meeting and told you these are our suggestions, and you were very kind enough to incorporate those suggestions, and seeing our background and experiences, and just knowing that this curriculum is going to reach out to every child in the government school, especially children from the government schools who are at the intersection of multidimensional marginalities. This is going to go to them. That itself is like, it feels very overwhelming to know this. And we can't wait for the implementation and from the feedback from the students and to see how it's going to roll out in schools. So thank you so much. We have some comments in the chat box, and also some questions, but we will take these questions and comments at the end. Please keep your patience. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Rashmi, ma'am. Moving on to Dr. Chandra. Dr. Chandra is an independent adolescent sexual and reproductive health and rights expert who he worked with WHO as a scientist. He retired from WHO in August 2023 after 30 years of service, having led global work on adolescent health and adolescent sexuality and health for nearly 2 decades. He has received 3 international awards recognizing his lifetime contribution to the field, and he continues to work independently, advising, teaching, and supporting organizations and individuals to advance research and practice in adolescent sexual and reproductive health. This was more of a generic bio, but I don't think the large personality that Dr. Chandra is and the expansive and the rich work that he has done can be just put together in a small bio. And Dr. Chandra has been supporting Enfold for many years now, and it was actually his gentle nudge to us that
Can we move on, Sanjana, please?
yes. All right. Okay. Yes. I will, along with Dr. Chandra, we also have Dr. Miranda. Uh, Dr. Miranda works for Rutgers, the Dutch Knowledge and Expertise Center on Sexuality based in the Netherlands. And Rutgers works on CSC in the Netherlands and supports organizations in various countries in Asia and Africa on CSC. And Miranda leads Rutgers research unit and has done extensive research on CSC, including on acceptability and support for CSC in diverse contexts. And here, Dr. Miranda, along with being a researcher, has also come as a parent. So, welcome both of you. Over to you.
Thank you, Sanjana. Could I have my first slide, please? And as the slide is coming on, I'd like to appreciate Rashmi Mahesh for what she said. As a fellow Indian and as someone who's worked with WHO for 30 years, it was such a joy to listen to you, Ms. Mahesh. Your vision, your commitment, and your ambition, but even more importantly, your humility and willingness to listen to others. So that was absolutely wonderful to hear. So in Namaste and in my presentation, I will pose and respond to the 5 questions that you see on the top of this, in the top box. What do children and adolescents need to grow and develop to their full potential? What are gender transformative education and comprehensive sexuality education? Why are they needed? Do they help and can they harm? It's a question that many people ask. And can they be scaled up? Next slide, please. In the next slide, I'm going to speak to you about what do adolescents need to grow and develop in good health. 2 complementary actions. If you take the analogy of an 11-year-old girl who needs to cross the road every day to go to school and come back, she needs information and skills on where to cross, how to cross, when to cross. As Sony George said, she will need a supportive environment, pedestrian lights, drivers who respect rules, and where there is chaotic traffic, an adult to help her cross the road. She may also need health and counseling services, a package of actions. And this is exactly the package of actions for sexual and reproductive health, for mental health and substance use. Can you go back, please? Please don't move till I ask you to.
Yes,
The
sorry,
second
Dr.
and complementary set of action is personal development, so that we develop their competence, their confidence, their connections with others, their caring and character outside the context of any religious context. So you need to prevent problems, but you also need to develop them personally. Next slide, please. The next slide is who needs to contribute to their health and development. A number of individuals and organizations, including adolescents themselves, those with whom they are in everyday contact with, those in regular and occasional contact with, and those people who don't contact them directly but have a huge influence on their lives. Rashmi mentioned the media, and social media influencers are clearly among this. The next slide, please. Gender transformative education. What is it? It aims to use the power of education to create a more just and inclusive world. And it seeks to use all parts of an education system and not just classroom teaching to empower students, teachers, community members, and parents to examine, challenge, and change harmful gender norms and imbalances of power. So that's what it seeks to do. The next slide, please. What is comprehensive sexuality education? The International Technical Guidance on Sexuality Education that was co-published in 2018 by the 5 UN agencies who are listed at the bottom of that, the photo of the title of the book, defines comprehensive sexuality education, as you can see on this slide, aims to equip children and young people with knowledge, skills, attitude, and values, something that Sanjana and Rashmi both talked about, that will empower them to realize their health, well-being, and dignity, respectful social and sexual relationships, consider how their choices will affect others as well as themselves, and understand and protect themselves and others. The UN recognizes that different countries use different terms. It does not impose the term comprehensive sexuality education on anyone, but much more than the term is the content and the delivery of the content. The next slide, please. The third of my 5 points. Why do children and adolescents need gender transformative education? This, if Sony George is still around, this is from a UNICEF publication from last year. Children and adolescents develop unequal gender norms, practices, attitudes very early in life, at home, in their schools, and in their communities. In this slide, what you see is around 1 in 3 boys and girls around the world believe that a man is justified to beat his wife. They are not married yet, but they are socialized to believe that a husband can beat his wife if she burns the food, if she's disrespectful, if she leaves the house without his permission, if she refuses sex and doesn't take care of the child properly. So, huge issue. Why do children and adolescents need sexuality education? Because of the points listed in this slide. Many adolescents are poorly informed about the changes taking place. They're unaware and unprepared to protect themselves. And if they have a problem, they do not know where and how to seek help. Let me give you a personal anecdote, and I'm doing this because it's important to talk about this as ourselves. Growing up as an adolescent in Bombay, in India, like all adolescent boys, I had nocturnal emission. There was semen coming out spontaneously in the night in my pajamas. I would get up in the morning mortified. I didn't know what to do because my mother would sort out the wash and no one talked about it. And my mother pretended as if nothing was happening. That's the problem. The problem is you can access pornography, you can on a mobile phone in the privacy of your bedroom, but you can't talk to your parent or your teacher or any other adult about such important things that are happening to you. The fourth of my 5 points, please. Next slide. So, gender transformative education and programming can be effective when intentionally designed to challenge power relationships and involve structural as well as individual change. I'm not going to go into more detail, but this powerful systematic review showed that it can bring about change, but we need more evidence about change that needs to be brought out at the community level. Much of the change that has been demonstrated is at the individual level. The next slide, please. There's 30 years of experience in sexuality education, much more than in gender transformative education. These two systematic reviews clearly point out that a well-designed, well-delivered sexuality education can improve knowledge, understanding, attitudes, practices, and when supported with services and a supportive environment, can improve health outcomes and reduce health problems. But these are research studies and evaluations. What about the real world? The next slide, please. Please, if there is one message you're going to take away from my presentation today, please look at this slide. In Germany, in the Netherlands, and Miranda can talk about it a little bit more, and in Sweden, sexuality education programs have been going on for 50 years now. Large-scale, school-based, mandatory sexuality education programs. This slide is from a study in Germany, the Youth Sexuality Survey, which is carried out every 5 years. And the message from these surveys are when young people get sexuality education delivered at school, mandated at school, supported by families and communities, they have sex later. When they have sex, it is protected. When they have sex, it is planned. It is not a surprise. They have less coerced sex. And most of them remember their first sexual encounter as a pleasurable one, not something that they were forced to have. And this is extremely important because we often are told that, if you educate young people about sex, they're going to jump into bed. There are studies that have shown that sexuality education does not lead to early, increased, or more risky sexual activity. If you're interested in these papers, I'm very happy to share them with you. This is very, very important to reinforce. Next, and my last slide, please. Last point. At the age of 65, I completed my PhD. My PhD was on scaling up, sustaining and enhancing school-based sexuality education in resource-constrained and conservative contexts. And the messages in a growing number of countries, you can actually scale up and sustain sexuality education programs. And these are around the world: Africa, Asia, Latin America, Central and Eastern Europe. My next and last slide. One of the examples that I included in my PhD is the UDAN program in Jharkhand. Jharkhand is the only state in India which has scaled up sexuality education and sustained it for over 10 years. And not only that, Ms. Rashmi Mathur, they have worked with the Ministry of Education with evidence to show that they need to take sexuality education to younger age groups. And I hope you can generate that kind of information and evidence in Karnataka state. They've also improved the way teachers' performance can be improved. Cascade training, they've shown, is a huge amount of money and not very effective. There are effective experiences that can be built on this. The Supreme Court of India, in several judgments, has endorsed the UDAN program and recommended its application. Karnataka could become the next model, a real model for South India, for India, and for the world. So the Obama slogan, yes, we can, yes, we must, yes, we have. Thank you and namaste. I'm now going to pass on the baton to Miranda van Ruijwijk. She is a good friend, a respected collaborator, and she is a mother. She is a family member. She's also an accomplished researcher who's carried out research in the Netherlands, in Africa, and in Asia. And she's been intimately involved in research work in Indonesia, which is a Muslim country, and which also has actually made enormous progress in sexuality education. And another myth that you can't do this in Muslim countries or conservative countries. Over to you, my friend.
Thank you so much, John. And let me start by saying how honored I am to be part of this webinar and to learn about this brilliant work and this fantastic partnership and collaboration. It's really impressive. And I'm happy to share some insights from the work that we do with partners in different countries and in different contexts, and from the research on acceptability and support for sexuality education, and what we learn from all the different implementation organizations and institutes and partners on what works to address parental concern and to prevent backlash. And I think what we see in all these different contexts is that, so I'm really going to talk about parents and parent concerns, that we see that that happens everywhere, that concerns are quite normal. And I think many of us are parents. I know for myself, when I heard from that my kids were getting sexuality education, the first thing that pops in my mind is like, oh, what are they going to talk about? I want to know. Why do I want to know? Because I want to have some sort of control over what my children are exposed to. And this is what is kind of like a normal response from parents, right? And we see that these concerns are very similar across contexts. So from Indonesia to Nepal, Pakistan, Madagascar, the Netherlands, and they often revolve around concerns around, hey, is my child not too young for this? Or actually, I don't think this is the responsibility of the school, this is the responsibility of parents. Why is the school interfering with this? Or concerns around particular topics that are being taught, sensitive topics, and then in particular sexual orientation and gender diversity. There are concerns from parents around that. And if you look deeper into where these concerns come from, often they come from not knowing exactly what sexuality education is about. People think like, oh, you're going to talk about sex. This might encourage children. Parents might think like, actually talking about sex and sexuality feels like you give them permission. And we have seen this fear at all times, everywhere. And it needs to be addressed. The thing is that more recently, this fear has been fueled by a lot of mis and disinformation online around sexuality education. And we've seen that in the Netherlands, for instance, where like fake videos or misinterpreted materials were used to tell parents or the audience in the Netherlands, the people in the Netherlands, like, you know, sexuality education is teaching pornography to kindergarten kids. And we're like, what is happening? People ask questions, of course they get concerned. And we had to do lots and lots of work to correct that information by sharing and being super transparent about what it is exactly that the content is about, what the goals are. And we see this, that is like an essential part of the work when we implement sexuality education, that needs to be done, to be super transparent to parents about that. What are the materials? Show the materials, but also about the history of where does the sexuality education program come from? Who have developed it? Who have been involved in it? What is the formal approval for it? Does the government support it? And what many partners do, what many schools do, is of course share that information through letters to parents, but also organizing parent meetings. And I think that is super important. In Indonesia, we've seen that has been crucial to build support, and not only having the school there, but bringing along a government official or someone who can validate and stand for that program and really knows the program in depth. Sometimes that can be like a local government official. Sometimes a video would be enough. Like what you're doing here with the webinar, and having like the powerful explanation from UNICEF, what Dr. Chandra said. Having these kind of statements and videos and share that with parents can be super important for parents to trust what is being brought, and because they trust the institutions, they trust the people. So the building of trust and trust is very super important, especially for understanding, creating that understanding of sexuality education. But there are also sometimes concerns that are more related to cultural and religious principles. And what parents fear is that what the school is teaching is different from what they teach at home, that there might be a value mismatch, basically. And this is also everywhere. And in the Netherlands, we did some more qualitative research around this fear from certain groups of parents. And I think the most insightful outcome of that research was that what these parents fear the most is the questions that children might bring back to the home, and to have to answer these questions or to have to engage in these discussions. They feel insecure about that. What we also really learned from this research was that how important it is to take parents serious about their struggle with this, about how complex this is for them. And by doing so, we also learned that they are not per se very much against sexuality education, but they are concerned about certain topics. And through the discussions, we also learned there are many more shared values than that there are values that are conflicting. So values around respect, setting boundaries, being responsible, equality, non-discrimination, not bullying, all those things, and especially child safety, are shared values. And it's important for parents to understand that and to also see how they guide their children, and what we want to do through sexuality education can complement each other, that we're actually in a partnership together. And then I think, and it was said also by before, around parents are also pragmatic, and they are very concerned about what's happening online and the exposure that their children get online. And they also understand that they might not be best placed to help children guide and develop skills to navigate that. So that is where they also are really appreciative of schools to help do that for their children. And that is often where we can find a common ground and support, and expand from there into understanding more and expanding more support. So in sum, we see that the actual support for sexuality education, the parents who support it or are appreciating it, is much larger than the group that might oppose it. And it might sometimes be good to really understand that, because sometimes the opposition voice can be very loud, but there might not be it might not be a very big group. We also see that concerns are very similar everywhere, and that we need to take parents and those concerns serious and build trust. And if we do that well, then they can come on board and even become champions for sexuality education. And I'll leave it with that for now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Miranda. And before I pass the baton back to you, Sanjana, just to reinforce some points that came out from what Miranda said. We sometimes think that, the cultures are very different. And I think one of the points that Miranda made is there's much more common than different about us. And second is that the critical issue is about building trust with parents and to take their questions seriously and respectfully, and to say, like Rashmi said, be humble in our discussions with parents. And finally, whatever you do, there will be some troublemakers. There will be some people who will attack us. And to be ready for that and to be prepared for that, and not to get surprised or angry about that, but to calmly and peacefully move forward. Thank you once again. And thank you, Miranda. A big namaste to you as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Chandra and Miranda. I think the key points Dr. Chandra has already summarized. Just one thing that was that silence cannot be an option. There needs to be dialogue amongst all the stakeholders. And, so just bringing these dialogues and, little nudge will take us forward. And also one thing that Dr. Chandra said was about scale and scale with depth. I think a lot of institution or stakeholders, they implement it in a small place and they just want to then scale it up without understanding how would that scale look like if there is no depth to it. So I'm taking these 2 points, and I think the participants has taken a lot of these points and just the misconceptions and the basics before we move forward. Thank you so much again, Dr. Chandra and Dr. Miranda. Now we move towards presenting the findings from the 3 briefs that we have written. It was quite a challenge to put all the 3 briefs content into one PPT, but we are trying to do our best, and we would also encourage for you to go through the PPTs which are there, or the policy briefs which are there on our website. Yeah, Karthik, could you or Shikhar, would you like to share the screen of the presentation? And Shikhar would be starting with the presentation. Over to you, Shikhar.
Thank you, Sanjana. I want to start by acknowledging what a privilege it is to have you all here today and to hear you all speak so passionately and so importantly of these matters that's in front of us today. So across government schools today, children are not dealing with one isolated issue. What we see both in data and through stakeholder interviews that we did as a team is a set of interconnected challenges. Academic pressure, anxiety, stress, bullying, exclusion, gender discrimination, silence around growing bodies, and increasing digital risk. About 93 to 96% of adolescents in these states have access to smartphones. And this digital exposure coincides with an increase in cyberbullying, online grooming, and various forms of online abuse. Teenage pregnancy continues to be a problem, with continued prevalence of child marriage and a lack of sufficient information on contraceptive methods, right? And in the background, we do have this pervasive mental health crisis. There are a significant number of students who report high levels of anxiety, feelings of isolation, and there is, as speakers before me mentioned, a school culture that promotes or allows or is silent about corporal punishment and peer violence. They persist despite legal bans, and most schools lack conflict resolution mechanisms that build responsibility, accountability, and promote healing and find ways to move forward together. It's also important to note that national and state assessments show a significant proportion of students find difficult to talk to anybody when they are upset or stressed. And this tells us the challenge is not merely academic. It is also to do with emotional safety. So our quest for understanding the situation in these 3 states began with a review of the state board textbooks. So our team reviewed the English medium textbooks of biology, English, social science, and environmental studies. And we also conducted key informant interviews with informants, including district collectors, district education officers, welfare officers, women and child protection officers, law enforcement officers, and members of non-governmental organizations that work around child development and safety. We complemented all of this with desk research that included going through government and civil society organization reports, government schemes documents, policy documents, and judicial material in the form of High Court and Supreme Court judgments. Now, before we move on, I would like to pose or talk about an important question. Why schools? Why intervene in schools? Now, schools provide consistent engagement with children, and therefore they create sustained opportunities for intervention. The issues that we're discussing are also extremely and closely related to learning and development. A child struggling with socio-emotional regulation can face academic challenges. Digital vulnerability can affect how students learn and socialize. And the pubertal age includes many changes and is also when students explore ideas of interpersonal relationships. But most importantly, children and adolescents learn enormously from each other. And schools provide the peer context where gender norms are negotiated, digital behaviors are modeled, and emotional skills are practiced in real time. And interventions delivered in this setting can shape collective norms and culture and create protective and proactive peer networks. The governments of Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, and Karnataka have done commendable work. Now, it is I just want to take some time to highlight some of the various initiatives that each of the states have taken. And I would urge you all to please go through the briefs for a detailed list of all the things that the states have in play. To highlight a few, Telangana has a happiness curriculum called Chelimi that focuses on mindfulness. They employ SHE teams and cyber ambassadors that have strong policing and safety wings and can potentially integrate further into daily school life. Now, they also have residential schools that have a dedicated mental health counselor system. Now, these programs are commendable, but they are reactive. And I will allow my colleague to then connect to the solution that we have proposed. But before which we will go on to the next slide for Andhra Pradesh. Andhra Pradesh has a new model called Learning Excellence in AP that focuses on holistic and value-based education. It has also appointed 255 career and mental health counselors this year, specifically to aid and recognize that mental health continues to be a challenge. They also have a village secretariat system that can be leveraged for school safety from the community. When we look at Karnataka, and we had a speaker we had our esteemed speaker talk about it at the beginning, the value education curriculum that's launching 25-26 for grades 1 to 10 covers about it covers values including gender equity, pubertal changes, digital safety, and we also have a draft state education policy that is proposed for 8 to 12. And the posters and the books have been very instrumental in our conversations with other state officials to sort of model how they can take this forward and implement them in their own states. Now, what this policy brief highlights is that when well-being initiatives are fragmented, their impact is limited. But when they're integrated into curriculum and everyday school practice, they can become preventative, protective, and empowering. And this is why the framework that we propose in this brief is not a new scheme, but simply a way to bring coherence to what already exists. I want to pass the baton to Sanjana, my esteemed colleague, to break down our proposed solution and talk more about how we can translate this policy solution from the page onto the ground.
Thank you, Shrikar. As Shikhar mentioned about the problem statement, we also want to speak about the 5 pillars that we propose through this brief. And we don't see them in isolation. There, it is a system, and it can't be seen in isolation. As a lot of us speakers have also spoken about the holistic learning that needs to happen. So let me briefly illustrate why this integration matters. So when it comes to, for example, when it comes to social emotional learning, in many classrooms, students told us things like, if I get angry, I'm told to stand outside. If I feel sad, people just say I should focus on studies. And these are not problem children. These are only children who have never been taught how to name and manage their emotions. And then they grow up as adults without understanding how to regulate their emotions. So, social emotional learning gives children language and tools to name and manage emotions, leading to an emotionally intelligent child and a future adult. And when it comes to gender equity and comprehensive sexuality education, I think one of the strongest challenge findings that we have had was that it's not really about the misinformation, but the silence and the confusion, where children say that we were told changes will happen in our biology class, but no one told us what to do when classmates laugh at us about these changes. So, in the curriculum analysis, also, we found that puberty is taught biologically, but emotional changes are rarely addressed. Menstruation is mentioned, but management, stigma, and myths are often unaddressed. And gender equality appears in social science chapters, but everyday school practices still reflect stereotypes. And again, what's missing in most of the curriculums is about experiences of transgender and intersex children. Yesterday only, I had a call with an intersex adult who was sharing her experiences as a child, that her genitals were of male, but then she like it was not completely male, but she was assumed to be a male, and she was in school. She had to use the washroom, the boys toilet, and children in our school would pull her pants to see her genitals. And so that's the situation, like when it comes to transgender and intersex children. And these children are missing out from our curricula, from our campuses, from our conversations. So gender equity and sexuality education creates a space for these conversations to normalize body changes during puberty, challenge everyday discrimination, especially based on genitals, who sits where, who's monitored more, who's blamed, and teach that dignity, consent, and respect apply to all genders. It also helps children understand that growing up is normal, it's not shameful, and that equality starts in everyday school practices, not just laws, and replacing shame with accurate and age appropriate information. So what we are trying to suggest is, like, not just in the curriculum, but curriculum is one step towards it, but there has to be everyday practice in the school system, the infrastructure, everything has to speak about equality. Now, personal safety education. So, when children grow up learning ambiguous names of their private parts, mostly from their caregivers, they're told that these parts are dirty, shameful, chichi, don't talk about it. And some people exploit the children's ignorance and subject them to sexual abuse. For example, in one of the instances, a 3-year-old child was taught that her genitals name was flower. And the child now is 6, playing hide and seek with a relative who touches the child's genitals. The child is confused, and they go to the parent and they say that the uncle is touching my flower. The parent now doesn't remember what they said, so they say it's okay. Flowers are, you can touch, and they can touch flowers. It was only later that the parents realized that the child had reported unsafe touch a couple of months before. And children are also talked about, don't talk to stranger danger. But data shows that it's the people known to the child who exploit the child the most. So, personal safety education does not create fear. That's one of the misconceptions, that if we talk about safe touch, unsafe touch, it will create fear. But it is about giving children accurate, age appropriate information without instilling shame or fear. And when it comes to digital well-being and citizenship, as you might have seen in the adolescent, the series that is there on Netflix, that talked about how children and adolescents are navigating complex digital relationship, but without guidance. Nowadays, most children, they might not have a pen in their hands, but they might have a smartphone on their in their hands. So we don't know what information that they're getting. So, and schools often respond, or parents also often respond by banning phones or warning children. But absence of access does not mean absence of risk. And digital well-being education helps children become responsible digital citizens, and not just responsible for themselves but also responsible and respectful towards others also. There's so much of trolling, image morphing, and lot of digital risks that are there, which children, even adults, are navigating it through. So imagine the situation of children and adolescent in these spaces. Last but not the least, restorative approach. Sony had spoken about it, and Enfold also had done a review of evidence from global South and Western context, which shows a clear and consistent pattern that school-based violence, whether corporal punishment, bullying, or ragging, does not correct behavior. Instead, it increases the risks of school dropout, substance abuse, and long-term physiological and psychological harm. And children who are repeatedly punished or beaten often internalize the belief that they're bad children and they're deserving of harm. And many boys who experience violence as children go on to produce that same violence in adulthood because punishment is the only response that they've learned. Which reminds me of one of the kids in the beginning of my career, where it was an 8-year-old child, and I was doing a session on gender, and I asked, what if the woman in the house does not cook food? What would you do? And this quietly, this child raises his hand and he says, Madam, फिर तो मारना पड़ेगा. कि we will have to hit the woman. And I said, but why hit the woman? You can talk to the woman also. And he said that, but जब हम गलती करते तब भी हमें गुरुजी मारते हैं ना. तो हमें भी मारना चाहिए जब कोई गलती करे तो. Yeah, so when we make a mistake, our teacher also hit us. So we will also hit when someone makes a mistake. And that is an example that we see, the road rage violence, the aggression, especially of men, that we see every day. Does not, it just, they're not naturally born as violent people, because a lot of violence has happened on them. And that's why there's a lot of dropout of male children also from schools because of so much of corporal punishment. So when we talk to student about discipline, they say if we fight, we are punished. No one asks us why it happened. Restorative practices shift this fundamentally. They move the focus from blame to accountability, from asking who is wrong to who was hurt and how do we repair the harm. So when children are heard and involved in repairing relationship, conflicts also reduces, and responsibilities also deepens. So restorative practice do not remove discipline; they actually strengthen it by building responsibility, empathy, and lasting relationship rather than fear. The second, after the framework, so we also sat together and thought about how do we implement it, what are the recommendations that could be proposed to the states. So while we are talking about this, the implementation plan is not about adding burden to schools, which I see in some of the charts that they're talking about the burden on teachers, counselors, which is actually the reality of it. So what we are proposing here is not adding something more, but an alignment and smarter of use of what already exists. So one is the common recommendation across the states. So the first and foremost is through value education or equivalent life skill subject that's already present in schools. So we recommend mandating that curriculum from grade to 10 that integrates these 5 pillars. And this approach uses existing timetable slot, avoiding the need for a new subject or additional class hours. And Karnataka's value education curriculum offers a strong case study of how this can be done at scale. NCRT has also consistently emphasized the importance of value based education, which makes this a natural and a policy aligned entry point. Beyond this, we also want from 6th to 10th grade, if we could recommend updating the existing subjects such as biology and social science to include age appropriate CSE and gender content. Currently, some textbooks still see gaps or visuals that unintentionally reinforce stereotypes. For example, in some of the visuals, while we were doing the review, we saw that a man is sitting in the courtyard, reading a newspaper, sipping the chai leisurely, while the woman is standing in the kitchen and doing all the chores. And even in the maths books and the science books, we saw that the hand of the person who is doing the experiment is of a man. There is a shirt the person is wearing. So these small changes, these updates need to happen so that we can ensure accuracy, inclusion, and relevance. And in one of the textbooks, which is majorly used in most of the schools, we found that, for example, there were inaccurate factual information which says that the pubertal age starts from the age of 10. So imagine a child sitting in the class whose puberty has started at the age of 8, and in the book it is written that the puberty starts at the age of 10. Imagine the kind of conflict and the concerns that the child would be going through. So it's very important that we do look at the gaps that the textbooks has. Telangana has already made some changes to their curriculum and have also added being safe posters from Enfold in their textbooks. So we recommend that this approach, the five pillar approach, aligns with state initiatives. Dr. Chandra also talked about the Supreme Court directions that have come again and again, and recently also after the petition of a 11th grade student, the Supreme Court directed that transgender inclusive education needs to happen, and global best practices such as UNESCO, international technical guidance also supports the same. And as Dr. Chandra mentioned about Jharkhand Sudan program, that actually demonstrate that such integration is both feasible and effective in government school if all the stakeholders are also aligned. Now, also the restorative practices, it is not in isolation that we conduct a restorative practice class or something. It has to be integrated in everyday language, everyday conflict resolution, and community building. So we really recommend that, especially in terms of addressing bullying, body shaming, stereotypes, restorative approach can, and corporal punishment, it's actually an amazing way and an alternative to corporal punishment to introduce restorative approaches in school. And when corporal punishment starts, it does not just stop the harm from happening to the child, but also gives tools to the teacher, that if the child is not doing something, what's an alternative, how do they collaboratively work, and that will also build the relationship, the trust between the teacher and the student. Last but not the least, about the digital support, I think all of us have spoken about the prevailing digital access in children, and also almost every state has a digital platform, and even NCRT also has digital platform. So we can utilize and these technology as a support tool. So we recommend having a chatbot. Enfold is already working on a chatbot so that children can come onto the chatbot and put their questions, because sometimes maybe there is a shy child in the class sitting at the last bench and might not be able to ask all the questions during the session or to the teachers. So as they're already accessing information on the digital platform, this will create a space where they can get accurate, age appropriate scientific information on all of these topics. So we recommend that each state in on their official portals can put the chatbot so that children can access this information in an age appropriate way. Now, I think as in the last meeting, we also said teachers are the backbone of this intervention. It cannot happen without their support. So, a systematic, phased-wise training of the teachers need to happen so that they can implement these programs into the school. And we also recommend that if this training could happen at the B.Ed level, when the teacher is taking training as a teacher, when they learn how to teach math, science, and English, they also need to know how do they answer the questions of the child who's growing. So teachers training is very important. Now, coming to the Karnataka specific pathway, I think Karnataka's position is quite unique. They've already introduced the value education in which all the pillars are there. We just recommend that if, the textbooks can also complement the same information which is there in the value education, so that there is no conflict in the mind of the student when they're going through the value education curriculum and their school textbooks. So just the coherence across subjects and continuity as children progress through schools. Yeah. And all of these interventions that we talked about, NEP talks about it, the POXO Act, the Transgender Act, SDG 3 and 4. So we have enough policies, enough evidence to say that, this needs to happen, and it needs to happen in the classrooms. So before we close, I just want us to pause and remember who this framework is for. It is for the child who sits in class every day carrying emotions that that they don't have words for. It is for the child whose body is changing, who's laughed at, who's monitored or silenced but never guided. And it is for the child who tries to report unsafe touch but does not have the language or the vocabulary or the confidence to do that. And it is also for the child who logs into the digital world every night, navigating pressures and risk alone because no adult has shown them how to stay safe. So none of these children are actually failing our school system. It is us as adults who are failing to address the needs of these children. So this is high time that we move from good intentions to lasting systems, from reaction to prevention. And if education is meant to be great equalizer, then ensuring children feel safe, informed, and valued must be non-negotiable. Thank you. We will take the questions at the end. We will thank you for hearing us out. This was a brief description of the policy brief that we had written. I will give the floor to Ima Mary now, who is the founder and director of I4 Connect Foundation. She has over 28 years of experience in education and social development and a national level master trainer and trained in psychologist. She has monitored thousands of teachers across India in child-centered learning. She also practices, she uses theater and experiential learning and also has extensively worked in Telangana and Andhra. Thank you so much for joining in, Ima. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sanjana, for inviting me. First of all, my heartfelt congratulations to the Enfull team for putting this together, which is very, very important. So as a child psychologist and educationist, I've been working in the field for the last 20 years, especially with the marginalized communities. And I would say that, there's a very, very essential curriculum, after listening to all of you and after listening to Sanjana, how it is very integrated to understand. So being in the education sector, what are some of the pain points, especially working in Telangana and Andhra? All my education were in Chennai, Madras, in Stella Maris and WCC, and went to JNU Delhi. But when I came to work with the grassroots or with the communities, I saw the way they look at the education. First, we need to understand. So Miranda spoke about the parents, and I want to emphasize that how much teachers need education in this context, because most of the time, they give importance for the head. Okay, my children need to score IIT, JEE. It was a very painful thing to see here when I came here in Hyderabad. Right from 6th standard, children have IIT curriculum and JEE curriculum. So much of burden, so the parents would also kind of, think that, okay, my child scores maths, perfect marks, physics, perfect marks, everything is done. And I've been counseling a lot of children, like how much they feel depressed when they are not able to make it, because they made their whole world so narrow. And the system in education very much focuses on the head, on marks, memory, and information. So when we are going to put these kind of curriculum, many of them are not aware. The parents are not aware why it is important. The teachers themselves are not aware why is it essential. So they are very happy to help the children to solve questions, like every week 3 tests, 4 tests. From that adolescent period, the way they are being stressed out is too much here, and too much of competition oriented, and they don't know what is collaboration skill at all. So I go to teach life skills with the children, and also how to practice child-centered teaching methodologies with the teachers, because we cannot blame the teachers here, because they themselves come from that kind of a system. So here, when we are going to do this curriculum, one of the things I would really, we need to be cautious is be a lot more empathetic with teachers. They are also going to be our students. They also need to unlearn a lot of things that we need to understand. And coming to, looking at the system, teachers, they feel like, okay, very disciplined way, I finished my curriculum, I've given my exam, I've given the test, I've given pass-fail marks, and that is my job done. Maybe there are very sincere teachers, but they may not be, as Sanjana said, they do not have such kind of curriculum to learn and understand why is it important to use the heart? Why is it important to use the hand for the life skills, right? So when it is very important, they forget heart and hands because they're not trained to do that. Even the B.Ed curriculum, when they are trained as a pre-service training as B.Ed colleges, as well as we have been working a lot with affordable private schools. If you look at those private schools, many of them are housewives. They come in, just take up the job just to kind of support their family. They may not even have 5,000 to 6,000 rupees salary, that's it. But they still do it. But some of them are very passionate to learn a lot of things to bring change. So that particular sector also, beyond government school sector, that particular sector also requires a lot of effort for these kind of interventions, I should say. And we need to help them understand the heart is where the empathy lives. It is where the children learn to understand the feelings about themselves and about others. So many times if we look at even the seating arrangements in the classroom, it is like, hierarchy. The front row to the last row. The teachers hardly move even to go around to connect with the children. So recently we saw some experiment in Kerala, how they made the classroom architecture into a semicircle where the teacher can connect to everybody. So many times the children come alone, sit alone, study alone, go away. That's it. So I wish that, our kind of efforts definitely bring that bonding, bring that empathy, and it is where the children can help how to set boundaries, kindness, courage, and self-worth. Okay, without this training the heart, only in Tamil we say, "Ettu surakai karikku udavadu," which means that how much ever you're going to feed and, like a bucket of knowledge, you cannot make purposeful in their life the education. So that central education is very, very important. How life skills are very important. It is not an extracurricular subject. It is not like, the maths is important, science is important, physics is important, but neglect all this. Or like there is, whenever we teach a life skill, there is a huge thing, like it is a biology subject, it's not ours. Some NGO will come and do it. It is not our responsibility. So it's very, very essential to break all these myths in the teacher's mind and help them, because the success of this program, how much the teacher is going to own up, because it's going to be a massive scale. The training, how we really going to weave it in the heart of the teacher, that is very, very important here, I consider here. And also how to, when we ignore the hands, the ability to communicate, like many children I've seen, they're very studious, they score very good marks, but they cannot even appreciate their own peers, right? So they do not know how to put their knowledge, language, and it is very important. These are core life skills which are essential part of the learning education. It's not just math and we just compartmentalize and just focus one part of the brain, but we don't have an integrated approach of your head, your heart and hand together. I feel there is a speciality weaved in when she put that 5 pillars. These elements are very much there in full curriculum. That is what I see this. Yeah, of course, like Telangana, Andhra, they have been very proactive, taking a lot of efforts in terms of the SHE teams. The police team is very much involved in the school to go and talk about sexual harassment. They have POXO, PI, Chaitanya, ambassadors, cyber, a lot of things. But as Shekhar also mentioned, it's all like piecemeal approaches. It's not an integrated approach, which is not part and parcel of the system. So if the teachers are trained, like how you're training any other subjects, right? And this is also very, very important. It's not a subject, but it is a very important skill for the life. Another context I want to say here is like, when we say sexuality, it's still a stigma. It's a word. And also when we are talking about intersex, transgender. So if the teachers are not able to understand, look at this meaningfully, and it is not about biology or reproduction. Okay, it is not about just bodies. It's not about, so still there is a lot of myths, like, and also like as Mirinda said, we still not integrating parents into the education process. It's a very important stakeholder in the learning system, and how teachers also can invite the parents to have a session along with, that will going to be a great. In private schools, they make it very consciously. They have parent-teacher meeting. They have time dedicated for that. The teachers are trained, but in government school, those systems are missing. So it's very important, even if the parents are not educated, they come from marginalized communities, but definitely they have a lot more to contribute. The very decision they made, my child needs to go to school and need to be educated. And education can make a difference in the life of my child, can help to break this cycle of poverty, right? So education for the marginalized children, it's not just to get a paper-based some degree, but contextualizing that we are going to do this in a government school, we have to think it very holistically. And why does life skills based education and sexuality education is very important to set boundaries, respect emotions, safety, and relationship. Another important part, one thing I want to highlight and conclude is,
sorry to interrupt,
yeah,
Mary, but we do have two other speakers, and it is
yes, I just want to conclude, because recently, because children are not at risk only in the four walls of the classroom. The child needs to articulate. Recently, we handled a case in Bangalore in one of the urban slum settlement. A 6-year-old sexually abused by a 65-year-old man. The community take a lot of courage to really take action against, right? So the children need a language to be seen, they're emotionally, they are felt, they are respected. Until and unless a family creates this atmosphere, school creates that atmosphere, yeah. So that has to start very early. And I'm wishing Enfold team all the best for your efforts. I'm going to do, heartfelt congratulations to all of you. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mary, for stepping in at the last moment. I know we had some emergencies, so thank you for that, and all the wisdom you have shared here and your lived experiences. It's now my honor to introduce Dr. Benazir Bey. I've known her for a long time now. She was called the Munna Bhai, the Munna Behen, when she started her work. Yes, Benazir. She has over 25 years of experience working with vulnerable and deprived communities with a focus on quality education for children and adolescents. She works to build the capacity of grassroots level women on gender, health, literacy, and counseling, and support education initiatives for adolescent girls in both urban and rural areas. Over to you, Benazir.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm Namaste, and my name is Dr. Benazir, and I'm working in education field when I was 16-year-old. So almost 35 years in the school journey. But basically, I'm a teacher, and I strongly believe the whole system is for the teacher, by the teacher, to the teacher. So basically, what I learned and how I did it, what is my experience, I'm just going to share it. Because when we talk about education, we started with education, like making them children to learn. We work for the child labor, dropout, street children, and single parents and all. And the three things are very important when we are talking about the child. One is the family, and then the children, and then the society, and one is a school. The three triangles are very, very important. So when as a school, if I'm only talking about child, I never felt that I will be able to stand for 35 years. So my only experience makes me to understand when I'm talking with the child education, there is a problem because the child is working because of the poverty. So I have to handle that other part, that how I can solve the poverty problem also. So I started talking to the mothers. That was my, I think, the second phase, because one phase is that we have to take out children from the work and all that and teach them. And the second is that how to handle that, how their income can be, make up one other sources for the income. So we started talking to the mother, because I strongly believe being a woman and the mother, it has a lot of dreams and courage that she can do anything for the child. So I, spoke to the mother and then started bringing them to the school, making them to learn tailoring and all that, and then earning. That first earning, the 750 rupees, the magic, that made me very clearly that this is possible. Education is also possible, and bringing child in the school for a long time, it was also possible. So that is how my journey started. And to make a school, my vision was very clear. I am not talking about academic. I wanted to make my children to prepare for the life and become a good human being. As my children come from a very different family background where abuse and all these things are very common, bad languages, the family, and the gender inequality, does I think it is like, when you born, you grow up with that actually. So all this thing, how I have to handle it, that was the question to me. How I will do it. What are the solution I have to find out. What I must do. I think the first what I did it, because we are in the Bangalore and we are in Bismillah Nagar, where Muslim majority are there. My children are majority in the number of Muslim. So there was a lot of cultural, religion, and being a woman, myself also. So a lot of issues which I have to come across and tackle it. And I was very clear when I'm making my school that my school is a co-educated school where both boys are there and the girls are there. That was the first courage, making the boundaries. The education is for everyone, everybody. And I never wanted my girls should be in a shell where it is only for girls. And I cannot make any new planet where only the girls are allowed to live and die. I want they should live in this earth, in the same society. They should survive and they should fight. That was my intention. So I have to fight for so many things. It is not only just, one education or other thing. First, make that you are powerful. You can change. It is you. It is I. And that I started first with the mother and then to the child and then to the girls. And the girls, when they understood they are not less than anybody, that's everything is over. To bring that change, it took me almost 5 years. First, to fight within your society, fight with masjid people, fight within your areas, and make sure your mission should not stop because everybody want to stop. And as Sangeeta ma'am told that, Munni Bahan, even I have to become a, Munna Bhai also to make sure my school, property should be on my school only. So same fight I did it, how that you see in the movie. But the main concern for today topic, it is, when I talk about the child and the school and the family, I think first what I learn is that, everything come from the family and the society. And there are two roles as a school. One, we are teaching a child here in the school, you should always say truth. You should be very humble. You should be very kind and all that. But when you go back to the home, it is a total different picture. And the challenge here is that how you're going to make that, what is happening there that is wrong and what you're learning is right, but how practically. And there were so many questions, which is coming out. Like why it is like that, how it is like that, how we should do, why it is like this, and what we should do. I think the first question to me was how I should do, how I will make my children to have answer for all this thing. That was the first question to me, being running a school and tackling and talking to the children and all that. There was the first thing that we came across is a communalism. Krishna was not ready to sit next to the Rahim. And being I am from Air Force family background, I think that was the most difficult challenge for me because I've never seen all this thing in my childhood. And this, when I said, from where you got all this thing? No, that is possible. Ghar mein aise hi hota hai. We talk about home in like that and surroundings and all that. So slowly, to take out this, we worked with lot of organization who are non-Muslim organization. So I made my children to understand they are helping us. They're allowing you to learn computer at 90s. That was, I think, biggest thing to learn computer. They should not help you, no, because you're Muslim. So these are the questions, answers, and all these discussions. Basically, I strongly believe space is needed for every child. When you have a space, when you have a talk, you have a dialogues, you have somebody to listen to you. Then only you will be able to clear a lot of things. And as professionally, I've done BA, BEd, MA, and PhD. What I learned in this books and the practical was totally mismatched. What I learn in my life from children, that made me real doctor. And that is the one thing which I learned from the children, that they are clay. You know, you tell them, you teach them, you give them the shape. And the system has changed. My children were so much involved in politics when there is elections, and they were used. They were used by parties people. They were used by that dadas of our areas, rowdies and all that. And they're just going behind them. They don't know. I said, you're not a human being. Because you have a brain, use your brain and make use of sense, saying that what is right or wrong. Education, the main purpose for education is to make you to understand, take a decision, what is right, what is wrong, what is good for you, what is not good for you. So this was the only simple thing. We just started talking to them. And when somebody, their friend is dying, I used to think, what, you finally got it? He's no more your friend, because he was a group, that group, this group and all that. But you have still time. Try to understand. And when we work with children that who are child labor, they are basically the cheapest labor in the market. And they were used like anything. And the children, you know, which was made me still, cry, and my heart goes in a very this way, because the children childhood is lost. They are no more a child. They act as if they are all 15, 16-year-old. They're actually 8 and 10 years old. That was made me that where is the child? Where is the childhood? Because it is lost. And then slowly, when we 1 or 2, 3 things we were talking, that what is coming in the school, children were talking and discussing, we slowly, trying to sort it out. And then become this, when we're talking about all this early child marriage. 7 years, 7th standard, the girl is ready to get married. And the family is full, like any way, make sure this girl should get married at age of 10 or 11. And I made my girls, you're ready for the marriage? No. Then what you should do? I will support you, but how long? Maybe I can stop this, I can go to the police station, which I used to do. So they used to take this girl from Karnataka to Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. So this is also they started. But I learned that this is not the way. This has to be stopped by making my girls to be strong enough to take their own decisions. And these girls, we made it strong. We work with a lot of organizations who, talk about life skills, who talk about like Infold, very long time. I think when Sangeeta ma'am came and told me, Benazir, from LKG, we have to start teaching about sexual education. I was started laughing. Kya bol rahe ho? It is impossible. How we will talk about LKG? They are the most children, the younger one who was abused, but they don't know. And that was really shocking me. I said, ye bhi humko padhana hoga. This is also we have to teach. She said, yes. And this is how the journey started. And education, we connected with, when we talk about sexual education, the word is, very difficult and to make children to also understand. But the way the man came and said, ki, good touch and bad touch. That made it very simple for us. Okay, let us start with good touch and bad touch and make children to understand if something is happening to you like that, how you're going to do. I think that sometime when we talk about the school, my school is from LKG to 10th standard. So the child is with me at the age of 5 years, 4.5 years to 14 years. It's that other person who says sustainability, because the child is there with me from long time. So I have a time enough to give him exactly what is happening at his age. And I'm very lucky enough that I have so many partners where we teach them about life skills. And from Infold, we are learning about this, sexual education. And I think this last 2 years back, the biggest thing that happened when we came to the higher school level and all that, and we had a parents meeting. There the role come as a family and the parents. And being a Muslim and Muslim family, and I was little bit, I don't know, like what respond. But I said, let us talk. Because this is a need of ours. Because after Corona, and children were literally exposed to the phone. And that was the worst part I have seen in my 35 years of experience in education and in the school. My children are gone. They were sleeping. They were eating only 2 things, an addiction of phone. And what we should do, because there was so much exposure. See, our childhood was like that. We never knew anything. But now, It is sixth standard, fifth standard. They're so enough mature. When in-fold sessions was going on and all that, only so many questions, which was comparatively, judging for us, that sixth standard is asking so many questions comparatively the high school. From where it is coming? It is only through the phone and their house, the parents, the home. And parents, when we took the signature, when we are talking about their education and their all this, gender equality, and we're talking about the mental health, I think, and then the sexual education. The three things which we were talking in the same time, because they are interconnected. I don't know why that education system, I'm totally against to the education system, because I'm an independent school and I'm a private school. I have my own freedom. I only follow the 10th standard and state syllabus. But other thing, I do what I strongly believe that this is a need for the child. I'm lucky enough because other government schools and have a lot of issues, but I feel that I have a liberty, being running a school my own. And so we add so many things which is that has come. So as I was telling that, when we talk about the parents and the parents was first came and asked me, ma'am, what do you think ye zaruri hai? It is important. And what we should do, they don't know. The parent themselves don't know what we should do. I said, first sign to the consent letter and then listen to the session. Then you say what we need. And after that, they were so happy because these things was not even think about the children were talking to the parents or parents were talking to the children. I think this was something, the breakthrough, the border which we are doing, just breaking through and making them to understand this is important. It is nothing is wrong. If you are not comfortable with your own child, how you can do that for the other? So that was a thing that I think a small step, but very big step, where the parents was also involved and the children were also involved. And they took this decision, happily that we are had the sessions and everything, and we are able to find out what is happening in the children. We learn from happening, how to
Sorry,
solve. That was
sorry
a
to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt, Benazir, but we are quite a bit
yeah,
above
1 minute,
time. We
one
would
second.
love to hear. Yeah.
In 1 minute, I'll finish it off, ma'am. So finally, the conclusion, I can say that, this is, I feel, being a teacher and being running a school education is, this education is total education means is that when everything comes in that, academic, the personality, life skill, gender equality, sexual education, when we're talking about the mental health, it is not just academic, which, you have to prepare for the life for the child, not just giving them 100 marks, 90 marks and all that. That is there, always there, but that is a secondary. And this is only the message. And I'm very happy to listen, Miranda ma'am and Venkter sir and Sony sir. And he visited our school last year because we have school is a model where school is also running and the parent classes are also there, and vocational training and production center and all that. And thank you so much, Sangeeta ma'am, for giving me opportunity
Thank
and
you.
listening to this. Thank you so much.
It was amazing, Benazir. It's always very motivating when we listen to you speak, and we don't want to stop. But I'm bound by this. We are already 10 minutes overdue. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. And now the last, but not the least, the student himself, Mohammad Hamza, is a ninth grade student of excellent English school from Bismillah Nagar, Bangalore. He's humble, generous, and intelligent. He's eager to learn and has the ability to grasp concepts quickly. He enjoys playing cricket and is fond of fish and cats. He also shows a keen interest in electrical work. Yeah, we are waiting to listen to you now.
Hello
Uh,
everyone. Good day. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening everyone. Thank
Good
you
evening.
for giving me this opportunity. Usually adults speaks for children. So I am really glad to get this chance to speak about my own experience and maybe the experiences of many young children like me. Few months ago, I didn't really understand many important topics, especially mental health, gender, and our own bodies. Like many students, I are confused talking about these subjects. But after attending gender equality sessions by Enfold, my perspective has completely changed. I am a student of grade 9 and I want to share something personal. I am shorter compared to many of my friends. Some of them grow faster, some of them have mustaches and beards, and they look more mature because of this. A few students tease me and say that I am still young. Sometimes this teaching turns into bullying and it affects mentally. Through these sessions, I learned that everyone grows at a different pace, and this is completely normal. Physical changes happen differently for boys and girls, and there is nothing wrong or shameful about it. I also learned that mental health is as important as physical health. Words and actions can deeply affect someone's mind, and being kind and supportive really matters. We were taught about gender equality and the male and female reproductive systems in a scientific and respectful way. This helped us understand how our bodies grow and change during adolescence, and why correct knowledge is important instead of fear, myths, or teasing. Overall, these sessions help me grow mentally, emotionally, and socially. Today, I feel more confident, more aware, and more responsible. At the end, I want to request parents, government officials, and teachers to understand the importance of education because it prepares us for life, not just for exams. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for bringing in the very practical and the, how it has impacted you and how you could then go ahead and stand up and, think in a positive way about yourself. So with that, I know we are very much above time. Uh, are there any questions that people need to ask? You can please unmute and ask. Uh, there is one question here that I'm responding to that was from Rishabh about responding to violence or assault in the moment. So what is being done about that? So Enfold does set up systems. We were involved in setting up the child protection policy, in the development of the child protection policy for the state of Karnataka as well as Madhya Pradesh. We also work at the local level with schools, including schools for children with disabilities, to help them develop their child protection policies and implement them and respond to any form of violence or abuse or personal safety or safety violation of the child. So that is being done. I know there are very few organizations that are doing this across the country. We need many more. And so we are also pushing for, the higher education. Can we have our social worker, our counselors already trained in this? The graduate who then later on becomes a police officer, have they had any sexuality, personal safety education? Are they trauma informed? All of that kind of thing. If we can include it in our higher education, within 5 years, we will have service providers around this child who are already sensitized, who are respectful, who understand the nuances of sexuality and gender and the trauma and that abuse can cause, especially in this area.
Sangeeta,
Yes.
this is the first time Miranda has participated in a discussion like this in India. If, with your permission, could she have a minute to share any takeaways, particularly in moving towards implementation, but anything else?
Oh, thank you so much, Chanda. I'm digesting just how impressive all these speakers are. I love the complementarity of what you bring in this webinar on all these different levels. I think you really clearly, at least to me, show the importance of the focus on socio-emotional learning and how we should do that, and how systems need to connect and and align on that. And I find it just super powerful to hear from all these different speakers and all these different elements of how you can bring that together and how you have to collaborate on doing that. So for me, this is such a beautiful example of how you want it to work. So I'm really impressed with just taking that all in, and including like that you have an adolescent speak and show that on that level as well. I think that has been. I'm just taking it all in and just being really impressed and grateful for that I could be part of this and learn from you.
Thank you so much, Miranda, and we will be in touch. And now it is my duty to thank everybody who has brought us together here, made this possible, made all the briefs possible. So first of all the speakers here, all the participants here, especially Dr. Chandra, who has been guiding us all the way through, and the TMI team. When I first heard that I had to write 3 policy briefs plus 1 for higher education, I was like, I don't know, I've never written a policy brief. What will the prevention team do? And by serendipity, they arrived. They have had, they've studied policy making, all of that, and they're in their colleges. And so that team really could help us, guide us, and they're with us. Of course, UNICEF for funding the whole project and being the constant support. And then, of course, especially from all the teams within Enfold, especially our research team, because they had the experience of writing policy briefs. So we leaned heavily on Swagata, already very busy, but she always made time for this, and Shruti and Gopika and the rest of the research team. The prevention team, all the other members of our prevention team, do this research, download this, give me all the guru, and so many people. Juhi, I don't want to take some names because some will be left out, and then it might not. That's not my intention at all. But everybody pitched in, and then we were like, all right, let's design them, let's put them together, let's make them presentable and look attractive. And we had the entire team that looks into design and illustration, and Cheryl and Khushi Kansal, and now I'm forgetting one name, but it will come to me. Khushi, please chip in and take me out. Rumchum,
Yes.
and
Lavni.
Lavni, yeah, and still one more.
Shlesha.
Yes. Today morning I was like, these changes have to be made. Can you put this? And why is it all capital and this and that? So, and of course, our the other teams in Enfold, our administrative team, also not last or the least, are all the stakeholders that we reached out to, whom we could interview. And Dr. Kiran Agarwal was here in the morning. I hope she's here even now, I'm not sure. But she has been advocating for this for the last 20 years or more as a member of the Indian Association of Pediatrics. She's a pediatrician, has been conversing for it. Single-handedly, she was doing it for a long, long time, and she became one of the pillars who supported us in this. Yeah, and of course, we drew from our direct experience of working with lakhs of children over the last 24 years. So many teachers, counselors, the principals. So we could actually have a holistic view and not make anybody wrong in this. We are all a product of this society, and we can all work together. Thank you, Kiran, you're there. So we can all work together and make this happen. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Wonderful, Sangeeta.
Yeah.
And so
Yes. Thank you everyone for joining in. Just the last bit that you can find the policy briefs on our website. We'll also be sharing the recording of this meeting. And this is not the end of the conversation. This is just the beginning. So please do reach out if there's some collaboration that we can do. We need more collective wisdom to get this happen in schools. And for children like Mohammed, I think we need to do more work. So thank you so much for joining in. Thank you to all the speakers, and especially to Dr. Chandra for bringing in Dr. Miranda as well. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Karthik, we can end the meeting for everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Enfield
Emma.
team.
Thank you, Emma, for joining, and we will work together. We want to,
We would love to take it forward. Any rural areas, anything like I've been
wonderful.
working with marginalized kids.
Thank you, Sangeeta.
Thank you so
Kiran.
much, Sangeeta, for bringing all of us together. Thank you, Sanjana.
So you made it possible.
Yes, Kiran, and you played a huge part in this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kiran.
Thank you.